There will come a time, quiet, subtle, barely a whisper in the noise of your days, when something within you leans forward and asks, "Is this all there is?" And in that sacred pause, the soul speaks, not with thunder, but with certainty. "No, beloved, there is more, but not more to get more to remember, because you are not missing anything. You are not waiting for completion. You are not lacking a single thread of the divine tapestry that wove you into being. You already have everything you need." This is not a hopeful idea, it is a spiritual law. Just as the seed contains the tree, just as the acorn carries the oak, you carry within you the fullness of who you came here to be. Not someday, not after healing, not when the world sees your worth. Now, already, completely. But the world does not teach you this. The world teaches you to chase. It teaches you to compare, to strive, to climb invisible ladders. It teaches you that your enoughness lives in someone else's eyes, in future accomplishments, in the arms of those who validate your existence. And so you begin to forget. You begin to believe the lie that you must earn your wholeness. You begin to believe that you are a project to be fixed rather than a soul to be remembered. But the soul cannot be fixed because it is not broken. It can only be revealed. And so the journey begins not outward but inward, not into the maze of doing, but into the sanctuary of being. Everything you seek, the peace, the joy, the certainty, the love, is not outside of you waiting to be attained. It is within you waiting to be recognized, waiting for you to get quiet enough, honest enough, present enough to see that you are not the seeker, you are what was sought all along. There is a still place inside you. It is not moved by external winds. It is not shaken by circumstance. It does not fear change or loss or time. That place is your home. It is the eternal spark within you that existed before your name, before your personality, before you began building an identity that the world could praise. And this home, this sacred silent space, is where everything you've ever needed lives. It is where God resides, not in temples of stone, but in temples of breath and skin and quiet surrender. The Tao Te Ching teaches us, when you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. This is not poetry. This is reality. Lack is not truth. It is perception. Scarcity is not your destiny. It is your conditioning. And every time you remember this, even for a breath, the chains begin to fall away. The ego will tell you that you must chase more, become more, prove more. But the soul says simply, be. Be what you already are. Live from the wholeness that has never left. Act not from the hunger of incompleteness, but from the overflow of inner wealth. The more you believe you need something outside of yourself, the further you drift from your center. And yet, the moment you return, the moment you pause, breathe, and remember, you see with new eyes. You see that you are not a beggar at the gates of life. You are the life itself. You are not the drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. This is the great awakening. Not the acquisition of something new, but the shedding of everything false. The letting go of every story that said you were less. The quiet reclaiming of the truth that has never stopped pulsing through your being. And that truth is this: you already have everything you need to love, to forgive, to create, to live with depth and peace and radiant presence. The question is not whether it is there. The question is whether you will trust it. Will you trust that your worth is not in what you do, but in who you are? Will you trust that your path is not behind or ahead of you, but unfolding in this very breath? Will you trust that what you feel drawn to, the dreams, the callings, the longings, are not random desires, but the voice of the divine within you calling you back to your own essence? To trust this is to be free. Free from the tyranny of not yet. Free from the burden of when I have. Oh, free from the lie of if only. And in that freedom, your life becomes a sacred unfolding. Not a race to be run, but a song to be sung. Not a mountain to conquer, but a river to flow with. Not a task to complete, but a gift to savor. You do not need to be different. You need only to be true. And the truth, the deep, eternal, unshakable truth, is that you lack nothing. The sky does not ask the birds for permission to fly. The stars do not wait for applause before they shine. And you, beautiful soul, do not need the world's validation to be worthy of your own love. You are whole. You are holy. You are already what you seek. You already have everything you need. And now you are remembering. There is a wisdom in you that has never aged, a knowing that existed long before the world taught you to doubt. It does not speak in noise or drama, but in quiet nudges, in subtle peace, in the way your heart feels soft when you stop trying. This wisdom does not need to be earned, it simply needs to be heard. You are not separate from the source that created you. You are not an echo of divinity, you are its living expression. Just as a wave cannot exist apart from the ocean, you cannot be apart from God. Even when you forget, even when you wander, even when you wrap yourself in stories of insufficiency, the truth remains you are one with all that is. And when you remember this, you no longer try to manipulate life to make yourself feel safe. You stop forcing doors open, you stop begging for signs, you stop bargaining with the universe. Instead, you begin to live from the inner wealth that has always been yours. You move not to get something, but to express something. You create not to fill a void, but to overflow. You love not to earn it, but because it is what you are made of. Every moment is sacred when you see it through the eyes of enoughness. Washing the dishes, walking through the silence of morning, listening to the rhythm of your own breath, these become acts of devotion when you realize you are not preparing for life, you are living it right now, already. The present is not a waiting room for something better, it is the treasure. It is the field where everything you have been searching for gently blooms, but you must be here to receive it. Not mentally here, not physically checking the box, but soulfully present, bare, open, surrendered. And yet how often we miss it. How often we are consumed by what is not yet, by what might go wrong, by the mind's endless demands for proof. The ego thrives on dissatisfaction. It survives by keeping you looking elsewhere. But the soul, oh, the soul, it only wants you to come home. Home to this breath, home to this heartbeat. Home to the holy stillness that requires nothing from you but your being. Let yourself return. Return to the inner garden that has never stopped growing. Return to the place before your name, before your doubts, before the conditioning that told you something was missing. Return and you will see you are not the cracks, you are the light that pours through them. There is no better version of you waiting in the future. There is only a deeper version of you waiting to be lived now. You don't become more by acquiring. You become more by shedding, by releasing every layer that isn't you, by letting go of the performance, the role, the attachment. True richness does not come from what you have. It comes from how fully you inhabit yourself. And when you are full, not of things, but of presence, the universe bends to meet you there. Not because you manipulated it into doing so, but because alignment is the most natural state of being. Your life does not need more effort. It needs more allowing. It needs more trust in the divine rhythm that beats your heart and turns the stars. That rhythm is in you. You are not apart from it. You are it. You are not the separate observer. You are the expression of the one that observes all. The mystics have said for centuries, seek ye first the kingdom within, not because it's a poetic idea, but because it is the only truth. Everything you seek is a reflection of something you already carry. The love, the peace, the clarity, the purpose, it all begins when you stop looking out and start looking in. Not inward to analyze, to dissect, to fix, but inward to feel, to remember, to surrender, to dwell in the truth of your own enoughness without rushing to prove it. When you stop chasing what you already are, the chase ends. And in its place, something sacred begins a life not defined by striving, but by serenity, not built on achievement, but on alignment. You are not here to find the light. You are here to remove everything that covers it. You are not here to earn your worth. You are here to live from it. You already have everything you need. And the more you believe that, the more you see it reflected in every face, every breath, every step. Because life is not withholding from you. It is waiting for you to see clearly. And when you see clearly, you stop bargaining with reality. You stop arguing with what is. You stop resisting the moment as though your freedom lies somewhere else. You begin to soften, not because you've given up, but because you've awakened. You realize the fight was never with life, it was with your belief that you were separate from it. There is a deep peace that arises when you stop trying to escape your life and instead choose to inhabit it fully. Not the life you think you should be living, not the image you crafted for others to admire, but the life that is here, raw and honest and unpolished, exactly as it is. This is where the sacred is not in perfection, but in presence. Presence does not require that everything feel good. It only requires that you stay, that you breathe through the discomfort instead of running from it, that you feel what's true instead of numbing it, that you trust that even pain has a message not to punish you, but to open you. Every wound is a doorway, every ache a reminder. not of what you've lost, but of what wants to be remembered. The longing you feel is not lack. It is the echo of wholeness calling you back. You would not long for what wasn't already within you. You do not yearn for what you lack. You yearn for what you are. You are not meant to live in fragments. You are not here to hold your breath until everything feels safe. You are here to open, to expand, to embody the vastness that has always been your nature. And that expansion doesn't come through force, it comes through surrender. To surrender is not to give up, it is to give in to the deeper truth. To trust the ground beneath your feet, even when you cannot see the whole path. To know that you are supported, not by your control, but by the intelligence that moves the tides and grows the forests and knows exactly how to move through you too. You are not alone in this. You never have been. Every breath is a companion, every silence a guide. Every moment, no matter how ordinary, is infused with the same intelligence that births stars. And you are not separate from that. You are not less than that. You are that. And once you remember this, the idea of needing more to be whole dissolves. The chase fades. The striving quiets. And what remains is the truth you always knew, but were too distracted to hear, that everything you thought you needed was never outside of you. It was always here, waiting, constant, eternal. You do not need to find your worth. You need to stop believing the thoughts that tell you it is missing. You do not need to fix yourself. You need to love yourself deeply enough to no longer pretend you are broken. Wholeness is not something you reach. It is something you remember. It is not in the future. It is now. It is this breath. It is the quiet presence watching your thoughts. It is the love that never left even when you did. It is the God within you, not far above, but deeply here. And from this place, you begin to live differently. You speak with more intention. You move with more grace. You choose not from fear, but from clarity, not to prove, but to express. You are no longer trying to win life. You are dancing with it. This dance has no winner. It has no goal. It is the expression of truth in motion, the celebration of presence, the embodiment of soul. And it becomes available the moment you release the idea that something is missing. So release it now. Let go of the story. Let go of the chase. Let go of the illusion that your enoughness lies in some distant version of you. You already have everything you need. Not because you are done evolving, but because your essence has never been incomplete. And now finally, you are ready to live from that place. You are ready not because the world has changed, but because you have. Because something in you, something ancient and silent, has stirred awake and whispered, enough. Enough of the striving, enough of the masks, enough of abandoning yourself in pursuit of an idea that was never yours to begin with. You are ready because the pain of pretending has become heavier than the fear of being seen. And so you begin to live with more honesty, not just in your words, but in your energy. You no longer say yes when your soul is screaming no. You no longer stay where you must dim your light to be accepted. You no longer sacrifice your truth for approval. Not out of rebellion, but out of reverence. Reverence for the sacred within you that can no longer be denied. This reverence becomes your compass. It leads you not by logic, but by alignment. It guides you to places, to people, to purposes that match your frequency. And the more you trust it, the more life begins to unfold, not as a battle to be won, but as a gift to be received. You stop pushing against the current. You stop hustling for worth. You begin to flow not with passivity, but with presence. Presence is power. Not the power to control, but the power to create from truth. It is the power that comes when you no longer betray yourself, when your inner and outer worlds are no longer at war, when your actions rise from the stillness within rather than the fear without. And from this stillness, you begin to remember your true nature, not as a personality, but as a presence, not as a performer, but as a vessel, not as a seeker, but as the sought. You are not here to get something from life. You are here to bring something to it. Something only you can offer when you are rooted in your enoughness. What you bring is not your resume, your image, your accolades. What you bring is your energy, your intention, your presence, your capacity to be real in a world addicted to pretending. Your willingness to love without conditions, to serve without agenda, to speak without fear. This is the soul in motion. This is truth in action. This is freedom, not the absence of difficulty, but the absence of self-abandonment. And in this freedom, you begin to realize that joy is not a reward. It is your natural state when you are no longer chasing life, but dancing with it. The dance is not choreographed. It does not follow the rules of the mind. It is felt, not planned. It is lived, not strategized. And the music only begins when you are willing to be fully here, not in the story of who you were, not in the anxiety of who you might become, but in the deep breath of this exact moment. This breath is holy. This moment is enough. This being your being is already whole. And from this knowing, your life becomes a sacred expression, not of trying to be something, but of remembering what you already are. So let yourself remember the stillness beneath the noise. Remember the love beneath the fear. Remember the light beneath a story. You do not need to add anything to yourself to be worthy. You only need to peel away the illusion that told you otherwise. And as you peel, as you soften, as you surrender, you return. You return to yourself. You return to the place where nothing is missing. You return to the truth that you already have everything you need. And from that place, all things become possible. And when all things become possible, not through the might of your striving, but through the clarity of your being, life ceases to be a burden to carry and becomes a miracle to behold. You no longer measure your worth in tasks completed or standards met, but in how open your heart remains, how true your voice becomes, how gentle you are with yourself when you falter. You understand now that the soul doesn't move in straight lines, it spirals, it returns, it deepens. And every return is not a regression, but a rerouting. Every loop is another layer shedding, another truth remembered. You begin to move through the world like water soft, yet unstoppable. You let go of needing to be understood because you have come home to understanding yourself. You let go of needing to be seen because you now walk in the light of your own presence. You let go of needing to be validated because your own breath has become your teacher, your guide, your sanctuary. You are no longer in search of the next thing to fill you. You are in the practice of noticing what has always been full. And in this noticing, there is beauty. Beauty in the mundane, beauty in the imperfect, beauty in the pauses between plans. The sky becomes a message, the breeze a blessing. A stranger's glance, a silent affirmation that we are all walking each other home. You stop needing life to shout to believe it is sacred. You hear its whispers in everything. You stop asking for signs and start realizing that everything is a sign, every moment, every interaction, every breath, a divine reminder that you are not lost, you are not late, you are not lacking. There is a quiet confidence that rises when you no longer outsource your power. You stop seeking experts to tell you who you are. You stop collecting opinions to build an identity. You stop waiting for permission to be free. You trust your own soul as the highest authority. You let your intuition lead not as a rebellious act, but as a return to natural order. You don't reject guidance. You just remember that the most sacred guidance comes from within. And from this place, your relationships change, not because others change, but because you no longer enter them from emptiness. You no longer try to be chosen. You no longer shapeshift for safety. You no longer confuse attachment with love. You bring your whole self present, rooted, unapologetic, and in doing so, you create space for others to do the same. The connection deepens, or it falls away. And either way, you remain whole. You see now that letting go is not loss, it is alignment. It is the shedding of all that was built on forgetting, all that was born from fear. And in its place, something ancient blooms, a presence that needs no defense, a peace that does not demand conditions, a joy that rises without reason. This is the state of being that changes everything, not through force, but through frequency. The world around you begins to mirror your internal shift, not because you willed it, but because you aligned with what has always been real. Abundance flows, not because you grasped it, but because you finally stopped resisting your own worthiness. Love flows, not because you earned it, but because you became it. Clarity arises not from overthinking, but from stillness. You see now that the universe is not outside you, it is responding to you, reflecting you, expressing through you. And so you let go of the narrative that life owes you something. You let go of the bitterness that came from unmet expectations. You let go of the pressure to always be more, always do more, always reach higher, because now you know what you are is not a destination, it is a presence. And in that presence, everything is already here. You already have everything you need. You always did. And now you believe it. And in this belief, a sacred silence begins to settle within you, not the silence of absence, but the silence of fullness. The kind of silence that doesn't seek to be filled because it already contains everything. You feel it in your bones, in your breath, in the space between thoughts. This is not stillness as a pause, it is stillness as power. It is the quiet, unwavering center from which all truth arises. You begin to speak less but say more. You listen not to reply but to understand. You act not to achieve but to express. Your life becomes an extension of your essence, not a performance crafted to gain favor. You realize that simplicity is not lack, it is clarity. And clarity is the gateway to depth, to freedom, to connection that requires no explanation. The ego, once so loud, begins to dissolve without a fight. It does not need to be destroyed. It simply loses relevance in the presence of truth. Its voice becomes softer, its stories transparent. You begin to recognize its fear as a relic of survival, no longer necessary in the light of your awakening, and so you thank it without believing it. You honor its role without obeying its commands. Now your decisions are born not from scarcity, but from knowing. You no longer ask, what will they think, but instead, what is true for me? You no longer wait for signs that you are enough. You move as someone who remembers the truth cannot be undone by opinion. This is what it means to live from within, to allow the internal compass to guide you even when the path is uncertain, even when the world does not yet understand. And slowly, your very energy becomes a sanctuary. People feel peace in your presence, not because you have all the answers, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. You radiate a quiet joy that doesn't require conditions. You hold space for others not by fixing, but by being. And in your being, others begin to remember their own. This is the ripple of remembrance. This is the light that spreads without trying. You do not need to preach it, you only need to live it, because authenticity is the most powerful transmission. A soul aligned with its own enoughness becomes medicine in a world starving for truth. And yet you remain humble, because the soul does not need titles, it does not seek applause. It only seeks presence, it only longs to be lived. And when you live it, even in the quietest ways, you fulfill a purpose deeper than words. You become the embodiment of a truth that can only be felt, that we are already whole, already free, already complete. You do not need to do more to be worthy of this life. You only need to open your hands and receive what was never withheld. The beauty, the love, the wisdom, the grace. It is not arriving tomorrow. It is here, now, always. And so, beloved soul, you come to the end that is not an ending, but a great beginning, not a conclusion, but a return. A return to the truth that was whispered at your first breath and never stopped echoing beneath the noise. You already have everything you need, not because you finally earned it, not because life has finally agreed, but because the source of life has always been within you, quietly pulsing, eternally waiting for your remembrance. You look around now with different eyes, the same sky but deeper, the same faces but more sacred, the same steps but grounded in peace. Because you no longer move through the world with a wound to fill, you move as one who carries light, and not a borrowed light, not a conditional light, but your own, the light of presence, the light of self-trust, the light of divine belonging. You are no longer chasing your reflection in other people's approval. You are no longer chasing your future like it holds your salvation. You have stopped running, not because you have given up, but because you have arrived. Arrived in this moment, arrived in your body, arrived in the temple of now where your soul finally gets to exhale. And with that exhale, you drop the weight of shoulds, the weight of roles, the weight of stories that said you were not yet there. You lay them down like worn garments, and you walk barefoot into the sacredness of this breath. And this breath holds the whole universe. This breath reminds you that you are not separate, not forgotten, not behind. You are home. You begin to live not to get somewhere, but to feel something. You begin to speak not to be right, but to be real. You begin to give not to be loved, but because love has become the language of your being. There is no longer a gap between who you are and how you live. The inner world and the outer world have begun to mirror each other, not because life became perfect, but because you stopped needing it to be. And in this space, sacred, silent, surrendered, the miracle occurs. Life begins to flow through you with ease, not the ease of passivity, but the ease of alignment. The ease that comes when you are no longer rowing against the current of your own soul. The ease that says, I trust myself, I trust life, I trust that I am held by something far greater than my fears. This trust becomes your foundation, this trust becomes your prayer, and from this trust your life unfolds not as a performance but as a poem. Each moment a verse, each breath a blessing. Each encounter a sacred exchange in the great remembering. And now you know, not as theory but as embodiment, that nothing was ever missing. You were never incomplete. The treasure was not buried far away. It was always here, in your breath, in your being, in the stillness between your thoughts. You were never meant to chase the light. You were meant to remember you are the light. So live now, not as someone trying to become, but as someone who remembers. Walk as if your feet are holy. Speak as if your words are sacred. Love as if you have nothing to lose. Because you don't. You already have everything. Everything that matters, everything that's real, everything that awakens, heals, connects, and liberates. You already have everything you need. And now, there is a truth so profound, so quietly eternal, that it does not shout, it does not seek, and it does not demand your attention. It simply waits. It waits in the silent spaces between your thoughts. It waits behind every longing, every desire, every breath. And that truth is this: you are not here to chase what you want. You are here to become it. The universe does not respond to what you say you desire. It responds to what you are. Not what you pretend to be, not what you perform, but what you embody in the secret chambers of your being. Your belief is not a thought floating in your mind. It is a vibration etched into the architecture of your soul. And the world reflects that vibration like a mirror too honest to lie. So when you look at your life and see lack, ask not what the world is withholding. Ask what belief is vibrating beneath your surface. When you encounter resistance, when doors stay closed, when love feels distant, turn inward. Not to shame yourself, not to diagnose a flaw, but to remember that all things come not from pursuit, but from permission. You give life permission, not by begging, but by becoming. Become what you believe. That is the invitation. If you believe you are unworthy, life will keep showing you evidence to confirm it, not to punish you, but to awaken you. If you believe you are broken, the mirror of experience will crack with every step, not to discourage you, but to show you the illusion. But the moment you shift, not your words, but your state, the universe shifts with you. There is no outside. There is only the projection of your inner world cast upon the screen of time. Your relationships, your circumstances, your patterns, these are not random. They are the echo of your essence. They are the painting of your frequency. You cannot fool this canvas. You can only transform what brush you hold. To believe you are love is not arrogance, it is alignment. To believe you are abundance is not delusion, it is remembrance. To believe you are whole is not self-help, it is spiritual truth. Because who you truly are has never been in question. Only your awareness of it has wavered. You are the sky, vast and unchanging. Thoughts and beliefs are the clouds, sometimes stormy, sometimes soft, always passing. But you are the space. You are the stillness beneath it all. And when you rest in that knowing, when you live from that place, you stop asking for the light and start shining it. There is no need to hustle for your worth. There is no prize for pretending to be smaller. The God that breathed galaxies into existence did not forget to place power in you. It placed it so deeply, so securely, that only through inner stillness could you find it. Not because it is hiding, but because the noise of the world has made you forget how to listen. So listen now, not with your ears, but with your being. Do you hear it? That gentle pulse that says, you are enough. That quiet vibration that says, you are already it. That subtle pull that draws you not outward, but inward to the infinite field of potential that has always lived in your bones, your breath, your being. To become what you believe is not to force, it is to align. A rose does not strive to be beautiful, it simply blooms. A river does not beg to be flowing, it simply moves. The sun does not wait for permission to shine, it simply radiates. And you were never meant to be a seeker of what you already are. You were meant to awaken, to soften, to allow. If you wish for peace, become peace, not in your speech, but in your presence. If you long for love, become love, not in your performance, but in your essence. If you dream of freedom, become free, not in rebellion, but in remembrance. The Tao Te Ching says, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. This is not a loss, it is a liberation. Let go of the name, the label, the story. Let go of the mask you crafted to feel safe. Let go of the fear that if the world saw your truth, it would walk away. Because the truth is, when you become your belief, the world no longer dictates your reality. You become the creator, not the victim. The painter, not the paint. Belief is not mental, it is vibrational. You cannot fake your way into becoming. You must feel your way into it. And so the question becomes, what are you willing to feel fully so that it may become you? Can you feel the courage of being seen without armor? Can you feel the worth of your existence, independent of achievement? Can you feel the divinity of your breath without needing to prove your holiness? You were never here to get love. You were here to be it. You were never here to chase purpose. You were here to live it. You were never here to earn freedom. You were here to remember that you are already free. Your beliefs do not change the world because they are shouted. They change it because they are lived. So live them. Live them in the way you greet strangers, in the way you forgive quickly, in the way you let go of grudges and carry peace like a candle in the dark. Let your belief not be a phrase you repeat, let it be a flame you carry. You are not separate from what you seek. You are the field in which seeking occurs. You are the space in which transformation happens. You are the love that longs to be felt. And when you truly become what you believe, you will notice something miraculous. The world responds, not because it was changed, but because you were. Your energy shifted, your state realigned, your inner compass pointed home. And home is not a place. It is a state of being, a return, a remembrance. It is the feeling of sitting still after lifetimes of running. It is the awareness that you do not have to earn the sunrise. You only have to stop hiding from it. Let your belief become a sanctuary. Let your inner knowing be the map. Let your presence be the proof. And above all, remember this: what you believe in your heart and your breath, in the unspoken silence of your being, is not just what you attract. It is what you become. So believe wisely. Believe lovingly. Believe from your soul. And then become it. Become what you believe. And so, dear soul, let us breathe deeper now into the uncharted spaces where belief is no longer an act of will, but a surrender to the river of truth that has always flowed beneath your striving. You are not here to convince yourself of your worth. You are here to relax into the knowing that it was never in question. The stars did not doubt their brilliance before they shone. The ocean never debated its depth. Why then do you? The quiet revolution within begins when you stop negotiating with your greatness. When you stop waiting for permission to rise, you do not need evidence to believe. You do not need applause to validate the song your heart came here to sing. The oak does not consult the wind before it grows. It simply follows the whisper of life pressing upward through its roots. And so must you, not because you must strive, but because you must remember. You are not a student learning how to be divine. You are divinity unfolding in human form. Each experience, each pain, each joy, a petal opening toward the light that never left you. There is nothing you must become that you are not already in seed. The task is not becoming, the task is allowing. Allowing the divine blueprint within you to speak louder than the noise of the world. Allowing the deeper truth to outweigh the surface fear. Allowing your soul to take the reins from your ego, not in protest, but in peace. To become what you believe is to become still enough to feel the sacred beneath the script. It is to no longer measure your worth by what you achieve, but by how fully you inhabit this moment. It is to listen so intently to the silence within you that even your fears begin to soften, awed by your presence. Presence does not shout, it does not beg, it does not prove, it simply is. And in its being, it transforms everything. A caterpillar does not know it is becoming a butterfly. It simply surrenders to the chrysalis. It allows the dissolution of its former form. It yields to the unknown, not knowing the wings that await. And so too must you. The old identity, the one built on survival, on pleasing, on performance, will tremble as it dissolves. But do not panic. Do not cling. What feels like the end is only the sacred reassembling. The death of the false is always the beginning of the true. To believe in your light is not pride, it is prophecy. It is the soul remembering what the world tried to make you forget. And when you stop dimming that light to fit into the shadows of others' comfort, you become a mirror, not reflecting their fear, but reflecting their forgotten brilliance. Your becoming is not just for you. It is the call that awakens others, not through words, through presence, through energy, through the quiet declaration of your wholeness. You were not born to perform a role. You were born to reveal a truth, and that truth cannot be taught. It must be lived. Live it in the way you walk, as if the earth beneath your feet recognizes your sacredness. Live it in the way you forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you no longer need the chains. Live it in the way you breathe, fully, freely, knowing that the breath is holy, not because it is dramatic, but because it is present. This is the sacred art of becoming. Not becoming someone else, but becoming no one, no label, no title, no past, no future, just the unfiltered light of presence. And when you rest there, when you trust there, the need for striving dissolves. Not because you've given up, but because you've woken up. And in that awakening, life begins to orbit you differently, not as reward, but as reflection. Everything changes when you do, so let it change. Let the old beliefs fall like leaves in autumn, not because they were wrong, but because they are no longer needed. Let the identity you've carried grow soft in your hands like clay returned to the earth. Let the fear that protected you become the wind that frees you, and let the deepest belief rise not from the mind, but from the marrow. You are not here to chase light. You are here to be light, and that is enough. And so I ask you now, beloved listener, what do you truly believe? Not what you recite when asked, but what your life says when you are still. Do you believe you are worthy of ease, or have you come to worship struggle as the cost of being alive? Do you believe you are seen by the divine, or have you accepted invisibility as your identity? Do you believe that love is your birthright, or does your heart still wait for proof? Because life will not give you what you want, it will give you what you are. And you are always becoming what you most deeply believe. There is no shame in the old beliefs. They were survival tools, hand-me-downs from wounded generations. They were the scaffolding that held your psyche together when the winds of life blew hard, but you have outgrown them now. The scaffolding has become a cage, the belief in lack, the fear of being too much or not enough. The identity formed around wounds rather than wholeness. These were never the truth. They were echoes of the collective forgetting, and now you are remembering. You are remembering not as a student recites facts, but as a seed remembers how to bloom. It doesn't try. It doesn't strategize. It doesn't consult the opinions of the forest. It surrenders to the rain. It yields to the light. And so must you. You are not here to figure it out. You are here to feel your way back to the sacred pulse within you, to rest in the rhythm that existed before the world taught you who to be. This is not passive. This is not resignation. This is the highest form of courage, to shed every belief that kept you safe but small, to stand unmasked in your full presence and say, this is who I am, not because I have earned it, but because I was born it. There is a difference between confidence and conviction. Confidence comes and goes with mood, with outcome, with applause. But conviction, true soul knowing, does not waver. It is the flame that does not flicker when the wind howls. It is the knowing that you are guided, even when the path disappears. It is the silence that answers all questions without speaking. To become what you believe is to stand in that conviction, not because you know how it ends, but because you know who you are. And who you are is not a personality, not a past, not a narrative. You are the witness behind it all. You are the vast awareness in which every chapter has unfolded. You are not the pain you endured, you are the one who endured it. You are not the mistakes you made, you are the one who learned through them. You are not even the body you wear, you are the light that animates it. When this remembrance takes root, your very way of walking through the world changes. You stop performing and you start emanating. You stop managing your image and you start aligning with your truth. You stop seeking validation and you start embodying the sacred. And in that embodiment, you will find a freedom that no circumstance can give or take away. You will find that joy is not a peak to be climbed, but a current to be tuned into. That love is not a prize, but a presence. That peace is not something you arrive at, but something you become when you stop resisting what is. Yes, the world may still swirl with noise, people may still misunderstand you, storms may still rise, but the difference is this: you are no longer trying to stop the waves. You are becoming the ocean, and the ocean does not fear the weather. The ocean is not shaken by the wind. The ocean knows its depth, even when the surface is wild. This is who you are, not the surface, but the depth. Not the noise, but the stillness beneath it. Not the seeker, but the becoming. So trust yourself now. Not the small self that panics and performs, but the vast self that knows. Trust that who you are, when fully lived, will magnetize every resource, every encounter, every miracle you once believed you had to chase. Because when you become what you believe deeply, fully, without apology, the world no longer dictates your worth. You do. And that, dear soul, is the return. Not to something new, but to something eternal. And as you return, as you soften back into the quiet knowing beneath the mind's noise, you begin to see how much of your life was shaped by a belief that you had to earn what was always yours. You wore masks not because you loved pretending, but because you thought the real you might be too much or not enough. You built fortresses of identity, clever, strong, charming, not to deceive, but to protect a truth so sacred, so pure, you feared the world might not understand. But the time for protection is past. You are not here to guard your light, you are here to shine it. And not just when it's safe, not just when you're praised, but even especially when it shakes the dust from someone else's forgetting. Because when you remember who you are, you don't just heal yourself, you become a mirror in which others remember their own reflection. This is the true service. Not fixing others, not saving the world, but becoming such an honest embodiment of your inner truth that your very being invites others to shed their armor. To become what you believe is to let every part of your life become a sacred expression of that belief, not in a grandiose way, but in the ordinary, in the way you wake in the morning with reverence, in the way you eat your food as though it is communion, in the way you walk through your day not trying to arrive but to align, because your life is not a problem to be solved. It is a song to be sung. And the melody only emerges when you stop trying to control the notes and begin to listen to the music rising from your soul. The more deeply you believe in your worth, the less you argue with life. You stop wrestling with outcomes. You stop needing guarantees. You stop making your inner peace conditional on how the story turns out. Because your story is not your truth, it is only the path by which your truth is revealed. Even the detours have been sacred. Even the heartbreak was not punishment, but preparation. Even the moments you felt most lost were secretly guiding you to the only home you've ever needed, the home within yourself. Do not regret the journey. It carved open the space through which your light could pour. It humbled the ego so the soul could rise. It stripped away illusions until what remained was the eternal, not what you've done, but what you are. And what you are is love. Not the kind we see in movies or wait to receive, but the kind that breathes galaxies, the kind that forgives without keeping score, the kind that looks at the whole mess of being human and says, this too is holy. This love is your nature. And when you live from that place, not as an idea, but as a way of being, you no longer ask life to love you back. You simply become the love that life responds to. This is how you create without striving. This is how you attract without effort. This is how you rise, not like a rocket, but like the dawn, quiet, certain, undeniable. And from that place, you no longer need to become anything more, because you realize you already are. You are the belief made flesh, the prayer made breath, the soul remembering itself through the simplicity of now. So let the old ways fall, let the proving end, let the waiting be over, and step fully, boldly, gently into what you already are. Not someday, not later, now. Because now is always where the truth lives. You see, the past is not a chain to break. It is a chrysalis to emerge from. The pain you carried was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you. Like fire to gold, it burned away the false, not because you were unworthy, but because the real you was always more luminous than the roles you were taught to play. But the past can be heavy when it is not seen through the eyes of love. It lingers in the body and the nervous system, in the quiet decisions we make, not to trust again, not to try again, not to believe again. It becomes the invisible architect of our resistance, the whisper that says, don't open, remember what happened last time. And so we live armored even while we long for softness. We build walls and call it wisdom. We numb and call it healing. But the soul, oh, the soul is still yearning beneath it all. Yearning not to forget the past, but to be free from its grip. Yearning not to erase the scars, but to let them become altars. Yearning not to run, but to finally come home. And this homecoming begins when you stop fighting your story and start blessing it. Every betrayal that taught you where not to place your trust. Every loss that revealed the impermanence of form. Every heartbreak that split you open so something vaster could enter. These were not random cruelties. They were sacred appointments with your own awakening. The soul does not grow through comfort. It grows through surrender. And surrender is not giving up. It is giving in to what has always been true beneath the noise. You were never broken. You were becoming. You were never abandoned. You were being redirected to the only love that never leaves the love within. And when you begin to see your past through these eyes, through the eyes of the soul, something miraculous happens. The emotional weight begins to lift, not because you've forgotten, but because you've forgiven. Not because you've denied the pain, but because you've allowed it to alchemize into power. The tears you cried watered the roots of your becoming. The silence you endured taught you the language of your own presence. The nights you thought would break you were the womb of your rebirth. So do not curse the road behind you. Kiss it. Thank it. Lay flowers at the feet of your former self who walked through fire so that you could remember how to fly. Because that's what this is, a remembering, a sacred return, a divine exhale after holding your breath for lifetimes. You are not the wound, you are the wisdom born from it. You are not the pain, you are the compassion it unlocked. You are not the past, you are the presence that remains unshaken, eternal, whole. And in this holy now, not tomorrow, not when you've healed more, but now, you are free to lay it all down. The regret, the guilt, the stories of how it should have been. You are free to stop dragging the past into your present and calling it protection. You are free to stop rehearsing the old identity and calling it personality. You are free to step out of the armor and into the radiance that was never lost, only hidden beneath survival. The soul is not waiting for a better future. It is waiting for your presence. It is waiting for the moment you finally say, I am done suffering for a story that no longer serves the truth of who I am. And in that moment, you are liberated. Not from your past, but from the belief that your past is who you are. You are not what happened to you. You are what rose from it. And what rises is light. That light, it is not loud. It does not announce its arrival with fanfare. It does not seek to overpower the dark. It simply reveals that the dark was never as real as it seemed. This light, the light of your soul, your essence, your divine being, has waited patiently, never rushing, never condemning, only loving. It has watched you run, watched you hide, watched you become smaller than your truth, and still it never left. Because light does not punish shadow. It only invites it to soften. And you, dear one, you are softening now, not because you are weak, but because you are becoming free. The soul does not need you to be strong in the way the world defines it. It does not care how tough you look, how unshakable you seem. It only asks for your presence, for your yes, for your willingness to finally feel what you've been running from, not to suffer it again, but to release it, to bless it, to make peace with the ghosts that no longer belong in your home. There is a grief that arises when we let go of who we thought we needed to be. It's the grief of false identities dying, of masks dropping, of illusions dissolving. But grief is not a sign of loss, it is a sign of truth emerging. And truth, when felt fully, will always liberate you. You do not have to carry the weight of proving anymore. You do not have to wear the armor of being unshakable. You do not have to keep defending a self that was never the real you. What you are has no defense. It needs none. It simply is. It shines by nature. It radiates by presence. It moves through life like breath, soft, unforced, infinite. You are not here to battle your way into wholeness. You are here to remember you already are. And in that remembrance, the past loses its grip. Not because it vanishes, but because you stop identifying with the one who suffered. You stop clinging to the version of you that was hurt, abandoned, silenced. You start identifying with the witness, the eternal self, who has never been touched by time, by trauma, by fear. That self is who you truly are. The soul has no memory of wounds. It only remembers love. And when you align with that memory, that ancient inner knowing, your energy begins to sing a different song. You no longer walk with heaviness. You no longer shrink to be understood. You no longer seek the approval of those who cannot see clearly, because you have seen yourself. And that sight changes everything. You begin to forgive, not to release others, but to unchain yourself. You begin to speak not to be right, but to be real. You begin to walk not to arrive, but to be. This is the miracle of becoming not through effort, but through alignment, not through striving, but through surrender. Surrender to the truth that what lives in you is older than pain, wiser than fear, stronger than the stories you've carried. It is the truth that says, I am already whole, I am already enough, I am already free. And so breathe now, not just air, but space. Let your breath make room for grace, for joy, for the return of a presence that was never missing, only muffled by noise. Breathe and feel the past melting, not because you forgot it, but because you forgave it. Breathe and feel the future no longer demanding answers, only asking your trust. Breathe and remember, you do not have to run anymore. You do not have to earn your way home. You are already there. And home is the soul that remembers it has always been the light. The illusion has crumbled gently, not with noise, but with grace. The story, so tightly held, so endlessly rehearsed, now falls away like dust in morning light. You are no longer interested in playing the part that won approval. You are no longer willing to shrink to fit an old world that no longer fits your spirit. Something deeper has taken hold, something ancient and bright and utterly free. You are not becoming something new. You are unearthing something eternal. The light you feel now, it is not foreign. It is familiar. It is the light you felt as a child before you were taught to question yourself. It is the essence that pulsed through you before the world gave you its names, its roles, its expectations. And though life tried to bury it under rules and wounds, it never left. It only waited. Patiently, faithfully, silently. And now that you have grown weary of masks, now that you have laid down the sword of becoming, now that you have softened into being, it rises. Not as a blaze to impress, but as a quiet, steady glow that no storm can extinguish. This is your power. Not the power to dominate, but to radiate. Not the power to command, but to connect. Not the power to impress, but to inspire, not with noise, but with presence. You become what you believe, not through effort, but through truth. You are the peace you searched for. You are the love you long to receive. You are the light you thought was missing. And as this knowing settles into your bones, you begin to walk the world not in pursuit, but in prayer. Every step a blessing. Every breath an offering. Every word a thread in the tapestry of becoming. You no longer wait for the world to mirror your worth. You carry it. You embody it. You live it. And life, sensing your shift, begins to meet you in kind. The right people come not because you chase them, but because you match them. Opportunities arrive not because you forced them, but because you aligned with them. Healing unfolds not because you controlled it, but because you trusted it. You've stopped striving. You started surrendering. You've stopped performing. You've started embodying. You've stopped seeking. You've started remembering. And this remembrance, this holy return to self, it is the true liberation. Not freedom from pain, but freedom from identification with it. Not a life without storms, but a life rooted deeper than the wind. You are the stillness beneath it all. The watcher behind the form, the presence behind the performance, the soul behind the name. And so you bless the journey now, not just the mountaintops, but the valleys, the thorns, the long nights. You bless the tears that taught you to feel. You bless the silence that taught you to listen. You bless every loss that stripped you bare until only truth remained. Because in the end, it was never about becoming more. It was about becoming real, about peeling back every layer that wasn't you, about standing naked in your truth and finding that it was enough, more than enough all along. And from here, you no longer live to be seen. You live to see the sacred in the mundane, to see the divine in the forgotten, to see the self in all things and all things in the self. You walk now not as someone with something to prove, but as someone who remembers the whole world as a reflection of the soul that has awakened. You don't need to explain. You don't need to convince. You simply live from the quiet radiance of the truth within you. And in doing so, you light the way, not by force, but by example. Not by noise, but by presence. Not by effort, but by being. So exhale now, not as release, but as recognition. You have arrived, not at a destination, but at yourself. Not at perfection, but at peace. Not at the end, but at the beginning of a life no longer dictated by fear, but directed by love. You are what you believe. You are what you allow. You are what you remember. And now, finally, you never had to search for the light. You only had to remember you are the light. You always were. And now you shine